Nothing that lives in the imagination is more frightening than the terror that lives in Castle Rock, Maine.
Cujo?
Cujo?
Can he get us in here? Can he eat his way in here? Can he?
Oh my God, I'm losing my baby.
From the novel by Stephen King, creator of Carrie and The Shining, comes a startling vision of fear.
Please, God, get me out of here.
Now there's a new name for terror. Cujo.
Welcome to the latest episode of the B Movie Club. I'm your host Kevin. This week we'll be discussing the 1983 horror classic Cujo, starring Dee Wallace, Ed Lauter, Danny Pintaro. It's really an all-star cast. Not really. For those who join us for the first time, each week on the B Movie Club, I discuss certain guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the past. Go to our page on Facebook, Original B Movie Club. Give us the thumbs up. Also go to our page on YouTube, KD9575, and hit the subscribe button. It's totally free. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at the B Movie Club. Please spread the word. The more, the merrier. Okay? Cujo. In this movie, there's a nice family that lives in Castle Rock, Maine. The Trentons. The husband and the wife having some issues. A little bit of an issue. Evidently, the lovely wife has been stepping out on her faithful husband with her ex-boyfriend, who he, I guess, is kind of works with wood and makes tables and things like that. He's very handy. And they have a young son named Tad. The husband and wife do. Not the cheating. As far as we know. I don't know. They don't get that deep into it, okay? The young son named Tad, who has, he's afraid of the dark, and he's very sweet, and all this good stuff. So, the Trentons have been having trouble with their Pinto, okay? It's the alternator shot, it keeps crapping out. So, they're like, okay, we need to get the car and get it fixed. Unfortunately, the guy in town is a bit of a crook, but there's a guy 6 miles outside of town, Joe Camber, who, he can fix it, he won't rip you off, he just does it in his garage, out on the farm or the ranch or whatever. He'll hook you up. Okay, sounds great. Unfortunately, Mr. Trenton, he's too busy, he's an advertising exec, and things are going wrong. He had this cereal thing, this promotion they'd come up with. Oh no, we're going to lose the account. So he's got to leave town, but not before he discovers, his wife finally admits, yes, I was having an affair, but it's over now. I just want you to know you're a great guy, and I love our family. So he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. He gets in the car. He has to leave town on business for 10 days. I'll think about what I'm going to do as I'm saving the account. Blah, blah, blah. So she's home. Miss Trenton is home with her little Tad. And the car's crapping out. It's like, okay, we'll take it up to the guy to fix it 6 miles out of town. Little do we know, Joe Camber, his wife and son, they're leaving town to visit Auntie Susie or whatever outside, out in Connecticut. His plan is he's going to go out and do, he's also going to have a night out with his old drinking buddy into Boston. Now here's a problem. there's a big problem on the horizon. The Camber's friendly dog, a giant Saint Bernard named Cujo, was chasing bunnies out in a field somewhere, stuck his head in the wrong hole, and a vampire bat bit him. I guess it wasn't a vampire bat. It was just a bat. It's not that story. And now he's got rabies. So before we know it, Cujo is like slobbering, and he's all oozy and gross and slimy. So Cujo, flipping out, goes and kills the drinking buddy next door, eats him up, goes and kills Joe, the mechanic, eats him up. He's not really eating them, he's just biting them until they die and kind of scratches them. So there's no one at the farm ready to fix the Pinto when they arrive. So she pulls up, la 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 la, steps out of the car, roar, here's Cujo. Luckily she's able to get back in, lock the door, tries to roll up the window, because again, you didn't have automatic windows back in the day. She has to roll it up. So now she's trapped in the car with her young son Tad, who's like 5 or 6, and a giant rabid Saint Bernard trying to get at her. Okay? This is 1983. There's no cell phones, okay? There's no devices, iPads, tablets, any of that good stuff. I almost said BlackBerry. So none of that stuff. So she is up the creek. And of course now she had just enough gusto in her car to get it to the mechanic. But of course now, no can do. It's not starting anymore. She's trapped. Her husband's calling, trying to find out what's going on. Did she run off with the table maker or what? So I don't want to spoil everything. I don't want to give it all away. Leave a little drama still hanging in the air. This movie, as you know, was based upon a Stephen King novel, also called Cujo. Stephen King is on record as saying that he was so drunk at this time in his life, raging alcoholic, he does not remember writing this book. Crazy. Does not remember writing it. Good grief. So they wanted to adapt this into a movie. They hired one director. He was fired after a couple days. Stephen King recommended they hire this guy named Louis Teague. Louis Teague's big claim to fame up to this point was that he was the director of a movie called Alligator, which was about a giant alligator that eats people. They said, hey, Animals Gone Wild. Sounds good. He went on to also do Cat's Eye and things like that. Mrs. Trenton is played by Dee Wallace, who was in The Hills Have Eyes. She was in E.T. She was in The Howling. She's all over the map, okay? Little Tad is played by Danny Pintaro, who you might recognize as being young Jonathan in Who's the Boss with Tony Danza. Hey, Mona! I don't know, that was probably the worst Tony Danza impression ever. So so it's an all-star cast. The husband, Mr. Trenton, was played by a man named Michael Hugh Kelly, who you might remember from that 80s private eye show, Hardcastle and McCormick. He's kind of an ex-con. He partners with an old retired judge, and they solve crimes. You remember that one? No, you don't. Bizarrely, the guy who plays her man on the side that she's having an affair with was her actual husband, who was a real husband. She's having an affair with her husband. Hey, what are you going to do? Good times. So, they had the script. They were ready to rock. They brought in the St. Bernards. If you know anything about St. Bernards, they're basically big, lovable teddy bears. Okay? And they look very friendly. Okay? They're huge. They're as big as a house, but they're very friendly looking. In fact, there are so many scenes where St. Bernards just thought they were playing. So their tails are all wagging all over the place. Eventually they had to basically tie the tails to their legs to keep it so that they're obviously not just playing, you know. They used a total of 5 different St. Bernards. They used a prosthetic fake St. Bernard head for a couple scenes. They actually had a guy dress up in a St. Bernard costume. So if there's ever, I'm a St. Bernard. If you ever see a scene like that, that's what was going on. For some of the close-ups, they used a Rottweiler because, again, the St. Bernard just didn't look that intimidating. To make the St. Bernards look all gross and scary, they used a combination of sugar and egg whites. That's fine, except St. Bernards loved it and were constantly licking it off their face. To make the St. Bernards attack the Pinto, they actually hid their toys, like their favorite little Lovey inside the car, so the St. Bernard would jump up trying to get at it. So, what are you going to do? Stephen King helped write the script extensively, but then declined a writing credit on this. So what are you going to do? He says there's one scene that he thinks is the most terrifying scene, most startling scene of any scene from any movie he's ever done. And that was the scene where they first pull up in the Pinto at the garage with Mrs. Trenton and little Tad, and out of nowhere, St. Bernard jumps up. Boom! And it is quite scary, okay? Stephen King also went on to say that Dee Wallace, he thought her performance in this movie was the best of any person of any movie he's ever been in, or any affiliation with him. Even better than Kathy Bates, who went on to win the Academy Award for Misery. So, with all that going on, what are you going to do? Hey. So, I don't want to spoil everything. I don't want to give everything away. Okay? So, this is Cujo. I watched it recently. I hadn't seen it in 20 years or whatever. And I enjoyed it. I found it, I didn't find it particularly terrifying. It definitely has some startling scenes. But it wasn't anything terrifying. Now, I thought the interaction between the mom and Tad in the car when Cujo's attacking is really kind of affecting. You know, it kind of affected me strongly. I mean, especially the little kid, Danny Pintaro, who was 5 or whatever, couldn't read. So he had to memorize his lines by his mom basically reading the words to him so he could remember what to say. He's excellent in this. He knew he was destined for good things, like Who's the Boss. His performance is great. He's, very genuine as a dog. I'm sure it probably was genuine. There's a dog trying to get in there, and he's sad and crying and all this good stuff. So, I enjoyed it. It's not like, hey, let's all watch Cujo for the 10th time. But if you haven't seen it, I recommend checking it out. It currently has a 59% on Rotten Tomatoes. But that's kind of right on the edge. You know, it's right. It can go either way. Okay? So check it out. It's still streaming instantly on Netflix. Let me know what you think. Send me any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, questions, and I may talk about it on the show. And don't forget to check out, there's a new series that started this week if you're on our Facebook page. It's called B-Movie Club Generations, where frequent B-Movie collaborator, Crystal, is sharing some of her favorite movies with her new roommate. So check it out. This week they're doing Beastmaster. I highly recommend it. Mark Singer at his finest. So there you have it. Next week, moving away from the horror genre, I'm going to straight comedy to the Adam Sandler classic, Billy Madison, streaming instantly on Netflix. Check it out. Again, send me any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, and any movie suggestions you might have, and I might just talk about it on the show. As you know, I end every episode with a totally out of context quote, and here it is. Cujo, what you growling at? I guess that's out of context, but you can figure that just works anywhere in this movie, essentially. One more thing. Cujo, people think that it's an ancient Native American word meaning unstoppable force. It does not. It is an old crazy word that Stephen King made up in a drunken stupor. So there you have it. So again, thank you for joining us. Next week, Billy Madison. Be well.